Good morning everyone and welcome back. This is Manuel from CaterGraphix Academy. So today we're going to learn how to set up every basic thing you need to do in Illustrator before you begin designing. So this is for those who just installed the tool and don't know how to go from here to there and don't know what to do to get things easier. I keep receiving requests on this, and I think it's time we just trash everything out once and for all. Okay, I hope you guys are excited for us to do this, and we're gonna do it in the best way, in the best practice, and these are everything you need to know to start up. I say these are 5, but these are more than 5 strategic simple setup you need to do before you start making your design. So we are faced with this, but before then I need to talk about these 3 things we are gonna circumference our designing and set up with today. So we are going to talk about the navigation bar, we're going to talk about the toolbar, and we're going to talk about the control panel. These are 3 main features of the design app which we have Illustrator. These are the 3 main features which controls the areas or all areas of our design. Before you complete a design, you must touch these 3 areas. So that is where we are putting all our interest on for today. So now first we are gonna deal with the navbar to start with. So the navbar is practically the stuff that holds all elements or all tool extra elements for you to choose from. For instance, you want to increase the size of a font. Instead of going through the properties and checking out the font style, for instance, you select the font style here, you go to properties over here to check that out. Instead of doing all those, okay, you have an element in the navbar where you can control all that from. Now you can see that if you just installed Illustrator. There are 2 ways to import your navbar, but we are just going to focus on one because we want to make this as brief as possible. The one thing you need to do is to head over to the top right angle of your designer, click on Essential and switch to Classic. You get that? Click on Essential and switch to Classic. Automatically you're gonna have your nav bar ready for you to navigate. Nav bar means navigation bar. So from here you can now increase the size, change the font, and whatever you want to do from here. Hope you get that. Very good. So that is the navbar. We're going to come back to this. Okay, here also you can change the colors from here. You can change the stroke colors from here. You can change the stroke width, the amount of width you give to the stroke. The same thing you can do from this angle. Changing the stroke width from here, you can still do that from this angle. So that is the navigation bar practically. Now what is the toolbar? The toolbar, let's switch this back to Essential. See, we don't have anything here. The toolbar is practically these elements that holds all the tools, from the pen tool, curvature tool, the marquee tool, the rectangular tool, the ellipse tool, the shape builder tool, the gradient tool, and eyedropper tool. All tools, the font tools, direct selection tool, the pen tool, all tools, zoom tools, move tools, every tool that you need. We are going to talk about this tool one after the other. Probably in the next tutorial about Illustrator setup, we are going to talk about these tools one after the other so you learn. But we have tutorials on these tools. You can go check them out, basic tutorials on these tools and how to use the basic part of those tools. So now this is practically the toolbar. The toolbar helps you to control things. For instance, you want to move this up, you can move this out, you can move this one out, and so on and so forth. That's what the toolbar helps you to do. Practically, you can also use it to draw lines, draw shapes. You can use it to start a text. Maybe you want to start writing a text, because I off the view to trim. So you can use it to write a text and change the color over here, and that is it. That's the toolbar. Very simple. You can also use it to pick an element style. For instance, I want to pick this style of this element. Just pick the eyedropper tool from here. Exactly. Then what you need to do is to click on the one you want to pick, put the element on. You pick on it, it chooses that element style for you. For instance, I want to pick on this color and this style. You pick it, choose that style, the font style and the color for you. Okay, so that is just the toolbar. The toolbar helps you to move things around. This is the zoom tool. You can use it to zoom in and zoom out of your designs. You get the point? So that is very simple. And the eyedropper tool, I just talked about that. This is to create. I don't need to talk about all this. This is not the idea for this tutorial. This is not the idea for this tutorial. Let me log this again. This is not the idea for this tutorial. I have some bonus tips for us today, but first let's just complete the one we are in. This is not the idea. I'm just trying to show you what these things are. So this is the toolbar. These are stuff. You can just walk around them. To add more toolbar, click on this edit tool over here. Click on edit. You can see all toolbar that are available for you to add or select. Okay, right click on it. You click on edit toolbar. You can click on this option. You can switch between the basic and advanced toolbar, but this is not what we are talking about today. Okay, this is not what we are talking about today. These are, if you are hovering over them, you will see all the toolbar that are available. Every toolbar here are available. Anyone you remove from here, you can remove a toolbar from here. Anyone you remove from here, automatically it will come in to stay here. I'm going to show you some more things you need to understand about this when we learn specifically the toolbar, a tutorial on the toolbar, so we don't waste much time on this tutorial. So that's basically the toolbar. We talked about the navigation bar, and I just show you how to switch and enable the navigation bar so you can see all through these stuffs and control your element based on the particular one you selected. Next, we talked about the toolbar, which is the one we have not gotten into the tutorial in proper. Okay, please don't get me wrong. And the next, we're going to talk about the control panel. The control panel is this one over here. Okay, let me zoom closely so you see all these things over here are called the control panel. All these things, all these stuffs holding elements, holding the color style, the color palette, holding all swatches, strokes, the gradient tool, everything here is called the control panel. So it's used to control elements inside here. For instance, I want to add or change the gradient color for this. I can pick a gradient color and it switches the gradient color, and I can start styling, which is a topic for another day. Okay, so that is just it for the control panel. So before we get into the tutorial proper, I would like to click on the subscribe button. It is down. Click on it. Click on the subscribe button. Like this design tutorial, and also share to friends if that is gonna be important to you. It just sounds like a bargain to me. Yeah, and that's gonna help me too. So that is it, guys. The navigation bar, as we have the toolbar and the control panel. So now let's learn how to arrange these things, which is the most important part of this tutorial. Now we've learned how to import the Navbar, which is this one's above. Just click on essential and add the essential tool. Now the next, we also learn, we've not learned how to import this. We just saw it when we installed the essential classic. So now let's deal with this once and for all. Let's go back to essential and proper. I deleted that tool. So what if you mistakenly deleted your navigation, your toolbar? I mean, you deleted your toolbar. How do you get it back? Very simple. What you need to do is click on Windows, scroll down until you see the toolbar icon. So here you can select between the basic and the advanced toolbar. So when we select the basic, it's going to give us the basic tool of the toolbar, which is this. Okay, this gives you just a few tools for you to walk around. Now you can now add some more from here. Now you can select, can say, okay, I want to add the magic one tool. You select on the magic one tool and you import it, and that is it there. Okay, so that is basically how to, you want to add this pen to this particular tool, just drag it in and place it where you want it to be. Okay, so that is just the basics for what the basic tool. That's the basic tool. Now what if we don't like the basic? We want all the tools, which is the advanced tool, to appear. What you need to do is still go into the window, select on the toolbar and click on advanced. See, just watch this toolbar, how it changes. Very good. It switches on all our toolbar. Now we can see the move to all tools that are available. Now we don't even have option here to add more because everything is added for us. Okay, that is it. Now this toolbar is in a wacky environment. We don't like it how it is. We want it to move to the left, but let it not cover our design style. How do we do that? We just drag in this toolbar. Do not just drag it and put it at the top side or like this. Drag it and make sure it hits the wall until there is a blue panel at the edge. When that happens, release your move button. Remember what we did? I just selected on top of it and drag it. Look at where I selected this part. And I dragged it till it gets to the edge and I release it. See what happens when I release it. Boom. So we have that toolbar aligning from top till bottom part of this design. From top here till the bottom part of this. And what that means is this: the design tool, the design we are working on, have been adjusted to match that particular angle. Okay, they have been adjusted to match that particular, and except we shift it or we navigate it left and right to that part. So we understand that this thing in this age is not covering our artboard or what we are dealing on here. Okay, so that is it for the navigation or the toolbar. Okay, so now we have the toolbar. Remember, we do not see our navigation bar anymore. If you watch here, we can't see our navigation bar. Even if we select a text to edit, we won't be able to edit from navigation bar. We have to go to the control panel. Now it is easy for you to do like that, but what if we have everything everywhere we want it? That will be easy for you to choose which particular one is best for you to work with. Very good. So to bring back our navigation bar, remember what I did earlier? Click on the Essential, click on Essential Classic, and that is it. Essential Classics brings in everything we have at our navigation bar, and we still have our toolbar. And now finally we get to the control panel. Very good. So now we have to deal with this control panel. Before we deal with this control panel, I would like to point out some things. All these control elements you are seeing here are all available inside the window layer. For instance, we delete our layer panel, we close this, we don't want it, we close the library, we don't even need the library. Okay, you don't need the library. Whenever I see it there, remove it. We close the property, which is very important. Now let's talk about the most important things you need in your control panel. The most important thing you need, one is the transform tool, the next is the stroke tool, next is the layer tool, and the next is the property tools. Okay, we are going to import all those things right now. Okay, first what you need to do is go to the window. First we have to import the transform tool. Click on the window, scroll down until you see okay, let's not even go into that, because if you want to do that you go to the Pathfinder that will import the transform tool. Let's not go to that yet. Let's import our layer tool, which is the first and most important tool, because before you start designing anything, you need to see how these elements you are designing stack, how they stack, which one is above which, and so on. So go to Windows again, you see layer over here, click on layer or click on F7 to import your layer. Click on layer, and that is it. We have the layer panel right here. Now if the layer panel is somewhere like this, let me zoom closely so you see. If the layer panel is somewhere like this, you can find layer panel something like this. If you have it like this, if you click on the layer panel, it's not going to pop out like this, and this doesn't make much sense. Okay, now we want the layer panel to be in the part where we can see it, play around with it and see it fully stacked. Okay, we want to see it fully stacked in that particular angle. Okay, so what you do is drag the layer panel. For instance, the layer panel is at this edge. All you do is drag the layer panel itself, and just as we did to this particular element over here, let me show you the one we drag to this part and it colored blue. Drag the layer panel to this edge until it colors blue and release it, and that will pull the layer panel out for us. Okay, now it didn't pull it out. Let me show you what happens, because we only dragged the layer tool itself. Now open the layer tool and drag the layer. Look at the layer I'm talking about, the layer, this one that says layer. Drag it until it collapses on the blue panel. Release it to show up all our layer elements. Now we have all our layer elements. You can say, okay, we want this to move front, move back, and so on and so forth. We can control all our elements from the layer angle. That's number one thing we need, and we cancel that as the layer. The next thing we need is the property tool. To import the property tool, still go to the Windows, scroll down until you see the properties and click on it. And we have the property tool. This is the number 2 tool you need here. The next tool you need is the stroke tool. You can go to the Windows and import the stroke tool. You can still play around with all other this. Remember, the stroke tool didn't appear because it is already in the control element. It's already in the control panel. So what do we do? If the stroke tool is here, click on it, drag only the stroke tool and place it above this angle. We are no more dragging it to the edge. Okay, just place it above this space, white space, and that is it. We have the stroke tool. So now we can now control the stroke tool from here. Now we want to go to layer tool, click on layer, it goes to layer. Go to property tool, click on property, it goes to property, and we go to the stroke tool, we click on stroke, and it goes to the stroke tool. So that is it. One other thing we need in this is the transform tool. Very important. transform tool is very important. You may have it here or just have it here. I will show you an illustration of the conditions where we need the transform tool. So to also import the transform tool, go to window, you will also find the transform tool from here. Click on transform tool and it appears, and we can either drag it here or we leave it where it is. All we need is to have the transform tool present in the angle we want it to be. Okay, very good. So now we have all these tools which we need. We have the property tool, we have the layer tool. You can adjust this a little to give you more spacing. No, not this one. We want to adjust this. Let's see if there is conditions or okay, we can't adjust this the more. So we can now push the transform tool over here. We can leave it here, no problem. So we can see everything we are doing from here to there. Can collapse this if you want to collapse it from here. You can also expand it from here. You can also expand this one to see all tools from here. So now if we click on export tool, we see the export tool, but this looks a little bit confusing to me, so I like it to be like this. So you get that. So we have our elements, and we also understand how to import these elements here and how to arrange them. So now let me show you a condition where we need this transform tool. So this is the condition where we need transform tool. For instance, we don't have the transform tool. Let's remove this and drag out. Let's trim this out. Now look at what I'm doing. If you are making a design and it is popping out of your artboard and you don't want that to happen, you want to see exactly what is going on within your design system, you can go to the viewport and click on the trim tool. That's a bonus tip. Trim view. Trim view will help you what? Trim out all the parts that you don't need. For instance, all these parts that you don't need, to trim it out so that you can concentrate on your design. That's number one tip. Number two tip is also to check your correction, your spelling. If you have wrong spelling in your design, you can check that from the object, from the I think that should be the edit tool. Very good. So click on the edit tool and go down to spell. Click on auto spell check. When you enable that, you'll be able to see all the spellings that are wrong or right. There is no spelling that is wrong here, so I have all spelling spelled out correctly. So for instance, let's say for instance we make a wrong spelling here. We call this bonus and we enable that. We may not see this because the background already is black, so we can change that to white so we can see our spell check. So go to edit. Let's see if our spell check is enabled. Auto spell check is enabled. So why our spell check not reforming? Let's check that from very good. So we have this particular one underlined red. Anyone underlined red, if you go to spell check, for instance, zoom closely, you see underlined red, which means that is wrong. That could be a wrong spelling. Go to the edits again and object edit again. Go to the spell check. You see the underlined red will be removed. That's because of what? There is no spell check. Why it is wrong is because of the extra dot at the edge of the menu. So that is it, guys, for that. Now let's deal with this. I have to disable this trim before we get to that. Now what I want to point out is this: when you don't have the transform tool enabled in your design and you have a stroke, given a stroke in a particular element, let me show you something. Given a stroke in a particular element, this element we have over here. Now, when you increase this element, the stroke reduces. It doesn't maintain the size of the stroke. You see what happens to this circle line? It automatically turns to a square because I use a square to create a circle. You can use a square to create a circle because when you make a square like this and you draw all parts like this, it becomes a circle. But when you expand the square without enabling the scale corner and also scale stroke, look at what happens. When you expand this, it automatically goes back to become a square, except you bring it down to the particular ratio it was before you do that. Hope you guys understand what the problem is now and why we are facing this problem here. So now if you select this again and reduce it, the square could, I would say must go back. It could go back to what it was before. You see, it's going back to what it was before. And this is what it was. It's now going back to a circle. Now, the problem we're having is that the blue stroke we have at the edge, we start increasing uncontrollable. Now we reduce it the more. Let's see how the increase goes further. You see, the increment is not controlled. You see, the more we reduce it, the more the stroke becomes large and large and large. Look at what we have as the stroke here. And this is a problem. Okay, this is a problem. We don't want this. Now we increase this, the more the stroke maintains a specific size. And the square, the rectangle square goes stupid. And next we use the direct selection tool to pick on it and reduce it to become a circle. And that's not what we want. To avoid this problem, select on the element whenever you're creating a new artboard. Make sure you go to transform, enable this transform tool. You can't find transform, go to window, you find the transform from here. Look at the transform over here. So when you find the transform, enable it, select an element, because if you don't select an element, it doesn't bring out that option for you. Okay, so select the transform tool. You can go to properties. You could see that. If you don't see that in properties, you go to the transform tool. You're going to see that in transform tool. So enable this, which is the scale corner. These are very important settings you need to do in your Illustrator tool before you start designing, so you don't have problems with design, like you have uncontrollable issues that make you hate Illustrator. Okay, so now enable the control scale corner and also enable the scale stroke. Now when we enable this, what it does is this: it maintains every stroke or every corner in our design. Now let's increase this very well. You see that the stroke will still maintain the size, and we reduce it, it will still maintain the size. Let's zoom closely. You see, now reduce it the more, it still maintains the size. You see, so we don't have a problem with the stroke anymore. Everything is maintained because of these two elements. Now let's explain these two elements. Now the scale corner means what? It is going to scale the corner of this circle inside. All circle edges are going to scale accordingly. They are not going to reduce or increase based on what they are. They are going to scale according to their initial state as you would enable the scale corner. And also the scale stroke means what? The strokes at the edge won't increase or decrease, but will increase and decrease based on the aspect ratio it is what increased. So if we increase it very well, it's going to maintain that style and increase. If you reduce, it's still going to maintain that style and reduce, which is what we want. Okay, so that is the bonus tip. Another bonus tip I have for you guys today is to make your design system dark. We want a dark theme here. How do we enable the dark theme? To enable dark theme, go over to your, where do we do this? Go to the go to edit. Very good. So let me zoom closely so you see. Go to edit, scroll down till you see preference. When you scroll to preference, scroll till you see the not performance, we have to go to user interface. Okay, click on user interface. Very good. So we now have the user interface. What you need to enable is this particular one. We don't have this. If you enable the white one, the whole place will go bright. Now enable the dark one. Watch, you see how the whole place goes bright. Watch how everything goes dark, and that is a cool UI that I love using so well. See how the whole place looks very dark and looks very interesting. Okay, looks very interesting to me. This is what theme I like using. So that's how to change the theme, and that's another bonus tip. Now we are done with this. Whenever you close your Illustrator, don't do this. Don't close your Illustrator when you're done with this. Whenever you close your Illustrator and open it up again, all these things are going to disappear. You're going to start afresh, rearranging all these things again. Now, let me teach you guys how to save your settings progress so you don't have to come back and edit again and again and again. So whenever you open Illustrator, it's going to be with the same settings you have already existing. Okay, so how do we do that? How we do that is to go to editing, still editing, we go to my settings and we click on export settings. Very simple. Let me do that once again. Go to edit, go to my settings, and we click on export settings. When we click on export settings, it brings all this dialog box for us to select the place we want this to save. You can save it in your PC, you can save it in your desktop, but save it where you don't need to move it. If you move it from that folder it belongs to another folder, the settings won't populate because it doesn't see the element to populate with in the particular last history folder it saved it on. So wherever I save it, or whatever name you save it with, leave it there like that. So what you're gonna do is what? Simple, hit on the save button and let's find settings was exported successfully. Okay, so now let's find where our settings is. Click on the Windows button, you see the settings over here. This is our settings for this Illustrator. Now for instance, or for some reasons, sometimes you restart your PC and we have some kind of bug or some kind of error, or maybe you change the text name, or you deleted it, or you moved it to another folder. Now, to import it back, probably when it didn't populate these settings for you, to import your settings so you don't go about doing these settings again and again and again, all you need to do is to go back to the edit, click on my settings, and click on import settings. Click on import settings. It says what? Importing settings will replace existing settings. To apply settings to Illustrator will be restarted. Okay, click on OK, and it will direct you to the place where the settings was existing, and you import it, or it imports automatically if you haven't made a change in the name or in the folder of the settings. So that is it all, guys, for today. If there's anything else I'm missing, just let me know in the next tutorial, when I'll be talking about next tutorial on Illustrator. Actually, when I'll be talking about the navigation bar, I will touch on that specifically. Okay, that is all for today, kings. I've got to go. See y'all. Enjoy the rest of the day.